Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 69 for you guys today. Of course, this episode is going to be coming out on all four of our platforms, our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So let's go ahead and dive into the first segment of the Combat Series this week. I'll be sharing my fight summary on the fight that took place last night in the sport of boxing between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. So, last night in the sport of boxing, we finally got that undisputed championship fight between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol, and the fight lived up to the hype and its expectations, with Artur Beterbiev winning that fight by split decision to become the new undisputed light heavyweight champion in the sport of boxing. Artur Beterbiev is the first ever four-belt undisputed light heavyweight champion in the sport of boxing. He becomes the next person to do it, the most recent person to do it at the light heavyweight division since Roy Jones did it in 1999. So that's huge for Artur Beterbiev, but I'll be sharing my thoughts on this fight because there's a lot. And I've been itching to talk about this, but I honestly had the fight scored 115-113 in favor of Dmitry Bivol. And I really thought that Dmitry Bivol won this fight. Whoever scored that fight 116-112, that judge scoring that bout in favor of Artur Beterbiev should never judge again in the sport of boxing. There's no way in hell that Dmitry Bivol only won 4 rounds last night in the sport of boxing. I really thought it should have been a draw if Dmitry Bivol wasn't gonna get the nod, but it is what it is. I do respect the judge's decision of giving Artur Beterbiev the nod of 115-113 because it was a close fight. But that was one hell of a fight. I think that fight really lived up to the hype and its expectations. Classic chess match between two top 10 pound-for-pound stars in the sport of boxing. But I just thought Dmitry Bivol landed the cleaner shots. I thought he landed more punches. I thought he landed more jabs and more combinations to wow the judges to win a very close fight. And I thought Dmitry Bivol also winning the counter-punching battle against Artur Beterbiev should have been enough for Dmitry Bivol to be the undisputed light heavyweight champion right now in the sport of boxing. Again, it was very close, but when you go back and look at it, when the shots are clean, it looked like a lot of shots Dmitry Bivol was actually blocking of Artur Beterbiev's, but hey, it is what it is. I will say Artur Beterbiev in the championship rounds from round 10 to 12 did win those 3 rounds, but 3 rounds doesn't win you a fight. I really stand on Dmitry Bivol winning this fight. I think it should have been scored 115-113 in favor of Dmitry Bivol, and he should be the undisputed light heavyweight champion right now in the sport of boxing. But even the stats, even speak for itself. Dmitry Bivol landed more punches, 142 punches to Artur Beterbiev's 137 punches last night. Dmitry Bivol also landed 58 jabs compared to Artur Beterbiev's 47 jabs landed. I don't know how Artur Beterbiev won this fight, to be completely honest with you guys. It was very close, like I keep saying, but I just felt like the wrong guy won the fight last night. And I feel like Dmitry Bivol was robbed. And like I said, it should have honestly been labeled as a draw. The first judge had to score a draw. And I respect the second judge's decision of 115-113 in favor of Artur Beterbiev. But that damn judge who screwed it all up, scoring at 116-112, I still question myself how you have the ability to score fights and big time fights like that. And what the hell were you really watching? You had the best seat in the house, the best seat in the world to watch the damn fight. You were at ringside to see that masterclass fight last night in the sport of boxing and Saudi Arabia. And you mean to tell me Dmitry Bivol really only won 4 rounds? And at best, Dmitry Bivol definitely won more than 4 rounds. I mean, that's common sense if you watch the fight last night. But he won the first 3 rounds. So what? I don't know. That's the thing that's going bad with boxing. These judges ruin the sport. I mean, they ruin the sport when you have a passion to watch the sport, when you have a desire to see who the best of the best is. And I said to myself, watching that fight, something's going to happen dramatically if this goes to the judges' scorecards. And I didn't think that was going to happen. But, man, I just feel so bad for Dmitry Bivol. And hats off to him. He is a class act. And he could have had a different approach in that boxing ring. Because if it was me, I would have been acting like a fool. Being robbed of my dreams, being an undisputed champion last night in the sport of boxing. So, hey, class act to him. for taking it on the chin, not overreacting, and just being humble like he normally is. But I'll get into what went right and the things that both fighters could have did better during this fight. So what Artur Beterbiev did do good in this fight, what he did well, which helped him win this fight. He did a good job pressuring Dmitry Bivol a lot in the fight. It was basically a tick for tack in a lot of sequence and a lot of moments. Both fighters are getting walked down, but I like the way how Artur Beterbiev pressured Dmitry Bivol in that boxing ring last night. He landed the power shots, and I think Dmitry Bivol honestly respected Artur Beterbiev's power in the early rounds. You could tell that Dmitry Bivol, Artur Beterbiev made Dmitry Bivol respect him a lot in this fight based off the power punches landed, and Dmitry Bivol ended up having a pretty black eye, basically a bruised purple eye this morning when he was presented to the media in the sport of boxing. But I think the adjustments that could have been made, or things that he could have done better for Artur Beterbiev, he really couldn't get through a lot. A lot of his shots, I feel like Dmitry Bivol was blocking. He even said after the fight that Dmitry Bivol's hand was actually bruised for how many times that he was had his hands up blocking Artur Beterbiev's shots. And like I just said, Dmitry Bivol landed more shots than Artur Beterbiev. So what these two judges could have seen, I mean, I respect the second judge, but what was this guy really seeing if a lot of these shots were being blocked? And I think that could have been some adjustments that Artur Beterbiev could have did differently, getting more clean shots and clean landed punches during this fight. Now, Dmitry Bivol, what went right for him in this fight? He started off strong in the first half of the fight, establishing the jab. We all know that Dmitry Bivol has one of the best jabs in the sport of boxing. He was winning the counter-punching battle throughout this fight, and he was fighting coming forward. And we all know that little tick-for-tack thing in the sport of boxing where Dmitry Bivol likes to come fighting forward and step on his opponent's foot. We saw that him do that in the first few rounds of the fight. But Dmitry Bivol did do a good job in splitting the guard as well during this fight against Artur Beterbiev. Now, the adjustments something I will be honest about, even though I believe that Dmitry Bivol won this fight, the adjustments that could have been made is, when I was watching this fight last night, I swear to you guys that somebody in Dmitry Bivol's corner had to be telling him, land a few punches in the championship rounds and play defensive, go into defensive mode, and you'll win the fight, which Dmitry Bivol should not have done in the sport of boxing, because I'll say round 10, 11, and 12, Dmitry Bivol did win those rounds. I will be completely honest about that. But when I've seen Dmitry Bivol landing a little bit here and there and then walking around, guarding yourself around the ring, tiring yourself out, somebody in his corner had to be in his ear telling him, just land a few more and you're going to win the fight by decision. I thought that was bad for Dmitry Bivol, and I don't understand why that was the game plan in the championship rounds. But now, thoughts on a rematch? A rematch? Hell yes. A rematch should be next. The light heavyweight division is pretty occupied at the moment with the top stars having something to do in the beginning part of 2025. We'll see David Benavidez and David Morrell fight each other. I'll get into that later on in the episode. But the division is pretty occupied, so I don't understand, or I don't see why the hell we can't get an automatic rematch right off the bat in early 2025, possibly springtime, between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol once again for an undisputed light heavyweight championship fight. It was a 50-50 fight. I think the second fight, if the rematch is made, both fighters have said they're open for the rematch, and Turki Al-Sheikh said he will do his darnest to make the rematch happen. So and he's pretty close from what he said. He claims Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol to be his brothers. So with that being said, I think the rematch can happen in spring of 2025. I think the rematch will actually be more explosive, more intense, with both fighters making adjustments of what they did right and what they did wrong in the first fight. So hands down, that is going to be, if we get that, that's already a hot start to 2025 in the sport of boxing. I think we're going to get that next in the sport of boxing for Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. And I don't want to hear about Canelo sticking his nose to this 175-pound division where it doesn't belong at this moment. But I will close out this segment by saying this. Turki Al-Sheikh is giving boxing fans what they want. He is one hell of a promoter, whether you like him or not, whether you like what he does for the sport of boxing or not. He's making me a happy boxing fan. He's making a lot of people out there in the boxing community happy, because he's working with different promoters like Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, Something that boxing promoters over the last few years didn't do, work with each other. Promoters really refused to work with each other. And the political side of it really held us back from getting a lot of big-time fights in the sport of boxing. But Turki Al-Sheikh is making sure these promoters work together so we can get these big-time fights. Turki Al-Sheikh is responsible for giving us Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, that undisputed heavyweight championship fight that we will also be getting to again to close out 2024. He just gave us Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol, that huge undisputed light heavyweight championship fight. And he also gave us that huge Terrence Crawford versus Islam Madrimov card during the summer this year. So Turki Al-Sheikh is working his ass off to give us the best of the best fights. He's helping guys like Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren work together. And also, he actually gave us Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois, even though that was a one-sided fight. That was still a 50-50 fight that Turki Al-Sheikh helped to give us that in 2024. So, great promoter. But hopefully we get Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol, the rematch in 2025. That is my fight summary between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol.